Welcome to another episode of Discograffiti's wildly in-depth Beach Boys series and Your Dreams Come True, where Brian Wilson freaks like you and me get our chance to delve deep into the barely believable history and prodigious discography of my favorite band of all time, and also coincidentally the best, along with a slew of over 50 top-shelf guests, ranging from musicians inspired by their work, family members, documentary directors, songwriting collaborators, Beach Boys authors, producers, touring band members, and for good measure, some of the Beach Boys themselves. I'm your host, Dave Gebrow, and special thanks goes out to co-producers Chuck Granata, Dennis Dyken, and Mark Freed, without whom this series would not have happened. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. In this episode, we feature the next entry in the Chuck Granata Pet Sounds interview series. It's part 2 of Chuck's chat with his close friend, legendary bassist Carol Kaye. This time around, they're joined by Chuck's bassist buddy, Ammo. Carol is one of the most prolific bass guitarists in rock and pop music, playing on an estimated 10,000 recordings during a career spanning over 65 years. She actually started doing session work in 1957 on guitar, and after a bassist failed to turn up to a session in 1963, she switched to that instrument, quickly making a name for herself as one of the most in-demand session players of the 1960s. She's appeared on sessions by Frank Sinatra, Simon and Garfunkel, Stevie Wonder, The Supremes, The Temptations, The Four Tops, and the Monkees. The intro on Glen Campbell's Wichita Lineman? She came up with that. Of course, that's also Carol plucking away on the Beach Boys albums Today, Summer Days and Summer Nights, Pet Sounds, and Smile. Most famously, Kaye's bass lines are the driving force behind Good Vibrations, one of her many #1 hits. Here's just a few of the many things that Carol discusses with Discograffiti in part 2 of this podcast. Brian's psychological difficulties, a nerd's fantasy, a rundown of her equipment, the corruption she experienced firsthand while working for Motown, the music she liked and didn't like playing, the particularities of the legendary studios in which she recorded, and just setting the record straight in general about absolutely everything. Here she is then, Carol Kaye.
Hi, Carol. I want you to meet my buddy Amadeo.
Yes, hi there.
Hi, Carol. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Ammo is we call him Ammo for short.
Ammo?
Yeah.
I mean like ammunition.
Yep.
Yeah, ammunition.
Okay,
I'm Chuck's
gotcha.
ammunition.
Ammo is a bass player, I think I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome, so.
Good.
Oh,
Good.
Chuck is bolstering my ability, I think, a bit.
Then we can talk about flat fives and leave them completely out of the conversation.
Which would be fine.
You're not getting away with that.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? Anything you guys talk about as musicians really would be, as always, an education for me. So feel free to delve into the technical. That's fine, too.
Well, you'll know about it all by the time you get this book done, So, I read something a little bit disturbing, though, in the paper about the lawsuit that Al Jardine has brought against, I think it's mainly against Mike Love, because Brian's not doing anything to Al Jardine, but Mike Love, and so he had to sue Brian, too, and it said something in the paper that Brian, when he did an interview on one of the TVs. He said when he's on stage and he looks out at the audience, he thinks the audience is going to kill him or something. I mean, physically kill him.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Yeah, did not sound cool.
Wow.
Oh, sure, Brian. Let him know you're sick. No, I mean, I don't think he's sick, but I think he's on those. On a drug or something that is like an antidepressive, and those things can literally make your mind work a little weird, I think,
Yeah, they definitely make you paranoid, I think.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit paranoid, although they probably won't discuss it, but I'm sure that they've had some close calls once in a while, some creep walking up and doing something. I mean, you never know, with the public out there. That's why I hate to play out in public, because you're always meeting somebody that's a real creep,
Right.
Especially for Brian. Brian, because people get the wrong idea about him. They think he's fragile. Well, he's not fragile, but he's definitely a big name, and, he's going to draw all kinds of people like a magnet,
Yeah, people, it's funny, and you know this, Carol, because, you've spent time with a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
Even when I spend time with Nancy here in New York, it's really funny to watch how people react to her. And she's not like a huge celebrity anymore,
well, she's got a big name, though.
Right.
She's learned to be careful, though, I think, too, because of her dad,
Yeah, and she is, but, there are a lot of wackos.
That's not their name,
Right. They're nutty people out there.
A lot of weirdos out there. You don't know what's going to come,
I would suppose that people are trying to gain access to celebrities in many different ways, and like you say, there are a bunch of sickos out there, too.
Well, it makes them feel important, see, because you're talking about somebody who's a nobody somewhere, and it makes them feel important to have something to do with any star, whether it's good or bad, and it's usually in a bad way,
right.
Some of these creeps are. It's just like the guys who steal cars. I mean, they get their hour on fame of TV because of the helicopters and the TV shows about them stealing the car, so.
Right, exactly.
So, Ammo, do you want to hit Carol with a couple questions that you have?
Having been an admirer of your playing, and actually when I was a younger student, also studying with some of your method books, I just had wanted to ask you a couple of questions that I was curious about. I know Chuck's book is on pet sounds, so I guess it might behoove us to stick to some of that.
No, we can talk about bass. I'm sure it's all right.
Yeah, we're open to everything.
Okay, great.
So.
I guess then maybe an all-encompassing question is, back at that time, in the 60s, what did your basic equipment consist of?
Back in the 60s, recording-wise, it was always a Fender Precision,
right,
with flat-wound strings, and I always played with a hard pick. And then the amplifier that I had, I always thought it was a super reverb. I can remember a super reverb, and I described it to somebody. He said, no, that's a concert amp. It was 410s with an open back. It was a Fender, but Fender did make a super reverb with 410s, and that's what I had. It had a vibrato thing on it, too. I mean, I was a bebop jazz guitar player in the 50s.
Right.
And I accidentally got into studio work playing, recording for Sam Cooke and Richie Valens. And I was a guitar player for 5 years before I ever touched the bass. And so I had the guitar amp. But that was a pretty good bass amp, the Fender Super Reverb with the 410s. So I had that for a while. And then about 68, then I had the Versatone amp. It's a real enclosed amp, and I think it's 112-inch.
Now, the Versatone, was that something that was made by, like, Ampeg, or
no,
I don't know the model, or was that its own?
It was a small company. They bought the rights to the Bonham amps. They changed the circuitry a little bit, so it's not really a Bonham amp, but it's almost,
Right.
It's these guys, Bob Hall and Jack Cookerly, that formed the Versatone company, and a lot of Versatones are out there. In fact, for studio work, you don't need a lot of power at all. You just need a clean amp that doesn't hum and stuff like that, and that's what this was. It was a low-powered amp, but yet it was enough to play some jazz gigs, at Dante's, so it was okay for a small nightclub. Jack Cassidy talked about that because he had a Versatone amp that he'd overdrive, and he said, I love the sound I got out of it, fuzz sound or something,
Would that have been the amp that you used on the Pet Sound sessions?
All right, that concludes your free sneak peek into today's bonus episode. If you want to hear the rest of it, just visit patreon.com/Discograffiti and either purchase this podcast by itself for $4, or better yet, subscribe at the major tier and get access to Discograffiti's 3 weekly episodes. That's Friday's main episode, the Sunday Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast. That's our podcast within a podcast featuring Patreon members as guests, and your Tuesday bonus episode. Please keep in mind this is entirely how I support my wife and 7-year-old son, so don't risk feeling badly about yourself by not supporting Discograffiti. Become a member so you don't miss a single thing at patreon.com/Discograffiti.